I wanted to ask you about this scenario of the United States going to war with Iran from your military perspective, because we are seeing that the U.S.'s military intervention into Yemen is a complete failure. But at the same time, the threat is toward Iran, that they want to strike Iran, perhaps, and that is where this idea of maybe they're bluffing. But this has obviously been in the cards for some time, Colonel Wilkerson, whether it's a bluff now or not. So I'm curious, what would happen if the United States decided that it was going to do the unthinkable here?
I'm echoing Larry here, saying that I hope to heck this doesn't happen, but there is a possibility it will happen. But if it happens, I'll recite to you a conversation I had recently with a gentleman I re-met down in Williamsburg when I was talking to the League of Women Voters at their library down there. I'm at lunch with them afterwards, and about 14 of the League of Women Voters Council went to lunch. And I'm looking at the guy down on the far left facing me at the luncheon table. I know him. So when the lunch is over, I get up and walk over there. And sure enough, it's Lieutenant General Paul Van Riper. He was my boss when I was the Marine Corps War College director in the initial phases. He conducted a war game. This is long ago when Iran's capabilities were far less than they are now, and it didn't have Russia in a formal alliance, didn't have China more or less hovering over that alliance. He conducted a war game in which we lost badly trying to take on Iran. We lost so badly, and the war game gained such notoriety so fast that the authorities directed him to do it again. Now, he was in charge of what was then called the Marine Corps Education and Development Center, so he had responsibility for simulation and wargaming. So he did it again. We lost again. So I asked him at that luncheon, which was only about a month or so ago, I said, General, in your estimation, a very, very robust guy, he's a little older than I even, but he's in solid, good shape, does PT every day. I said, what's your estimation now? He said, we'd lose worse. I've been keeping up with it. I think he's right. I do think he's right. This is not a country, 90 million strong, extraordinarily homogeneous population. They would hate our guts, and they would present us with an enormously difficult situation in terms of what we would ultimately have to do anything. And let's get beyond this airstrike business. That's not going to accomplish anything except making them unified and very angry. So we would have to invade. And we're talking about a country of, as I said, 90 million, fairly homogeneous, some of the roughest terrain in the world. It almost killed Alexander the Great when he bothered to come down there and sortie into their properties. Once was the greatest empire in the world, in my view, even greater than the Mughal or the Mongol or the later Eastern and Western Roman, any of the other empires. It was the greatest and most powerful empire in the world. And we're going to take them on in this sort of cavalier way that, as Pete Hegseth said, we're going to bring them back into the world of nations. They've been a nation, such as it is, a state, a whatever, for years longer than we have, at least 1,000 more than we have. And we're going to bring them back into the world. What ignorance of history, what crass, utter ignorance of history those statements personified. We're not going to bring them back into the world. They're going to bring us down if we do. And General Van Riper agreed with that assessment. I think it's a solid assessment.
And let's start with Yemen. If the Houthis had nothing but fixed military bases, fixed missile installations, all above ground, we'd be able to wipe them out. Not a problem, because they're fixed locations, they're well above ground, and we've got the weaponry that can take them out. But that's not Houthi land. Houthi land is that guy in the New York street corner that's doing 3-card Monte, or he's got the different shells and moving the P around. That's what they're doing. They've got mobile missiles. They're constantly moving. And no matter how good we think our intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance capabilities are, they are still woefully inadequate. I mean, I know firsthand from having watched just the efforts to try to track a ship underway in the ocean. We have trouble doing that. And we really have trouble being able to get a firm, fixed sight on a particular location in the deserts of Yemen, where we can then launch either a cruise missile, a ballistic missile, or an airstrike to hit that location. Because guess what? By the time you get there, it may be gone. And it probably is gone. We ran into the same thing going after Scuds, 34 years ago in Iraq. We didn't get a one then. Now we may get one, but we're also ignoring the fact that the Yemenis, supposedly these crude, backward people, they've shot down, last count, 16 of these MQ-9 Predator drones, the Reapers. Those go for about $30 million, $31 million a pop. So just do the math on that. They've shot down almost $500 million worth of Predators. That's the Houthis. So you jump over to Iran. Iran has, and again, I'm stealing from my friend Larry here because he said it earlier, but I'm going to take credit and sound smart. The Iranians have built shelters underground capable of withstanding all these bunker buster bombs.